But let's transition a bit. We mentioned Jerome Boateng. There's also been a lot of talk and also commented on by the chairman of Bayern that there's 50-50 chance of him leaving and his most likely destination is PSG. Why do you think he wants to do that?
I don't know that it would be connected with this fallout from the Özil stuff at all. I mean, I haven't seen anything that seems direct and legitimate to suggest.
But let's speculate for a second. You know how we like to speculate. I do love to be a shit stirrer, stir up the shit a little bit.
But yeah, there's also this thing of like, wait a minute, a black guy's leaving a Bayern. You know, what does that mean? And I think that there's an element there that, I mean, from a footballing perspective, it's the first time in, I don't know how many years, that they've basically given just a coach a try who's not really tested at a big club, who's obviously promising and beat Bayern in the DFB Pokal last year. So he's got some skills, but it will possibly be a difficult transitional moment for Bayern. And I think if you're Boateng, if you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and you think you really want to go and win the Champions League now, maybe then PSG becomes an.
He's won one Champions League with Bayern before, exactly,
right? 2013, but it can become Paris Saint-Germain are only created to win the Champions League. That's the only thing. Thomas Tuchel will not lose a game all year in Ligue 1, and he might be sacked if he gets kicked out in the round of 16 in the Champions League. That's just how it is for them. That's the only thing that they're there to win. So I can understand the appeal of going there for a few years and trying to win that. I think that's probably more what it is, as opposed to wanting to stay there and be part of a rebuild. He did say when he spoke on the phone with Mourinho, saying the reason I don't want to go to Manchester United is because I want to go to a club which is ready to win the Champions League immediately. And
that's pretty damning.
Implication, yeah. Well, it
sounds like an awkward conversation.
Completely. And the implication there, I guess, is that Manchester United isn't, and I took it that Bayern Munich is. But perhaps he's angling for a club like PSG, who could do with another defender and who are really set up now to win the Champions League. And if they don't win the Champions League in the next 2 years, that club could implode. You could have Mbappe and Neymar going anywhere else. You just kind of doesn't seem like they're really on solid ground there unless they have a lot of success.
I'm going to go back to the shit stirring a little bit. I mean, I think that Boateng, I think over the past 2-3 years, has really polished his image. But he had some conflicts before. There was this training ground bust up with Mario Balotelli. Some of his earlier antics wasn't always the nice guy that everybody knows him as. Also was a victim of actual racist abuse. About a couple years ago. And in that case, he was very loudly defended by Bayern fans, Bayern hierarchy, and the general public. Yeah, absolutely. And for Uli Hoeneß to come out at 8 a.m. the next morning after Özil's statement dropped on Sunday to lambast Özil and just call this accusation of racist sentiments. And being made a whipping boy for everything, to call it a complete cover and sham for his poor performance. I mean, Boateng and Özil, I don't know how close they are, but they seem pretty close. Maybe this has something to do with it. Like, maybe he just doesn't share the values of the club. He's been there for a while. He's won everything that he can win with the club. And he wants to move on. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here and be like, Bayern are such a white boy club. I know they have David Alaba. I know they have Kingsley Coman. I know they had Arturo Vidal, and they have a handful of other players as well who are of various backgrounds. I know Frank Ribery is a practicing Muslim, but the way they make you dress up in those, in the Tracht, in the lederhosen, and stand there with some beer at the Oktoberfest, they are, for better or for worse, they have a very strong brand. They have a very strong way of doing things, a very strong hierarchy. I mean, if you don't like Uli Hoeneß, you don't like any of those folks, guess what? They're not going anywhere. If you have a problem with it, then there's a door.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, they probably more than a lot of other German clubs, they have a lot of South American players, and they've, I mean, because they have the money to get the good ones. I think they do really trade on the traditions of Bavaria, because for obvious reasons, trading on the traditions of Germany doesn't go down well for a lot of other clubs. So by all going to the Oktoberfest and having a big photo session and that kind of thing, I mean, that's very much how the rest of the world sees Germany. They think that Bavaria is Germany.
Right.
And having been there last weekend, it's very different.
Yeah, it's definitely played up, and you know what? I think it's brilliant on their part, like to tie themselves so closely to a particular
particularly
brand.
with the value of Oktoberfest and Lederhosen and this whole Bavarian thing in the US.
They
One
definitely
of the
play that up.
Bayern, unlike any other German club, are run like a German business rather than a German football club. They're run like Adidas or Siemens or some of these companies that are world leading, and they're run that way. The Bayern Munich opened an office in New York ahead of the Bundesliga opening an office in New York. That's how far ahead of trying to get involved in the US market they were. So I think we know that they're very well run, and it's not just because they're wealthy that they do well. But they're also a very traditional club. You have these big wigs that will not be ousted, and you'll have someone like Pep Guardiola coming along and who doesn't really fit with the mould, and he'll come into criticism even though he won a crazy high percentage of games and took them to the semi-finals of the Champions League every year. So there is a lot of tradition there.
A particular way of doing things.
Yeah, which by and large has worked out for them. And
Very well.
But whether or not that's got something to do with a racial element, I haven't really.
I mean, let's look at it this way. Like PSG, also very cosmopolitan, one of the most diverse multicultural capitals in the world, cities in the world. Maybe fits his brand a little bit better. You've got players from all over the world there, not only French players. I don't know. Like, I definitely think that this commentary, like this, maybe this is actually reading too much into it. It probably has no connection at all, but it's interesting to think about. I know that
his fancy sunglasses brand, and having
Indeed.
a Parisian element that'll.
And he signed on with Jay-Z's artist promotion agency or athlete. Like it's how there's like artist development. There's also like they have an athlete.
Jay-Z's fond of Paris. But yeah. What?